Silence is the first teacher. When you stop chasing noise, you begin to hear what has always been speaking inside you. Most people believe motivation arrives like a gift, sudden and powerful, but in truth it is forged through daily confrontation with your own resistance. Every morning you wake up as two beings, one that wants comfort and one that wants growth. The quality of your life is determined by which one you train. You do not rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your discipline. This is not a punishment, this is freedom. Look closely at your habits. They are the invisible architecture of your destiny. You may not feel them shaping you, yet every small action is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you delay what must be done, you are not delaying a task, you are delaying your own evolution. When you act despite resistance, you are not forcing yourself, you are remembering who you decided to be. Strength is not loud, it does not announce itself. It is quiet, consistent, and patient. Many people wait to feel ready. Readiness is a myth created by fear. Growth begins when you act while still afraid, while still uncertain, while still imperfect. The mind will always offer reasons to wait. It will tell you that conditions are not right, that others are better prepared, that tomorrow will be easier. Tomorrow is the most dangerous word because it carries no weight. Only today can shape you. Only this moment can be trained. Pain is unavoidable, but suffering is a choice. Pain teaches you where you are weak. Suffering begins when you refuse to learn. When you avoid discomfort, it does not disappear. It waits, grows, and returns stronger. Discipline is not about controlling life. It is about controlling your response to life. When you learn to sit with discomfort without escaping, you develop an inner stability that no external chaos can shake. You must understand the difference between confidence and ego. Ego wants to look strong. Confidence wants to become strong. Ego seeks applause. Confidence seeks progress. When you train only to be seen, you become dependent on approval. When you train in silence, you become independent of opinion. True power is built when no one is watching, when there is no reward except self-respect. The body is the gateway to the mind. If you cannot command your posture, your breath, your movement, how will you command your thoughts? Start where you are. Breathe deeply. Stand with intention. Move with awareness. When the body learns discipline, the mind follows. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. A small daily practice shapes you more than rare moments of extreme effort. You will face moments when quitting feels logical. In those moments, logic is often just fear wearing a mask. The question is not whether you feel like continuing. The question is whether the person you want to become would stop here. Every time you keep going when stopping would be easier, you strengthen the identity of someone who finishes. Identity is built through evidence. Give yourself proof. Do not confuse busyness with progress. Many people exhaust themselves without moving forward. Progress requires clarity. Know what matters, remove what does not. Simplicity is a form of mastery. When your actions align with your values, effort becomes lighter, even when the work is hard. When they do not, even simple tasks feel heavy. Your past does not define you, but it does explain you. Learn from it without living in it. Regret is useful only if it sharpens awareness. Guilt that leads to inaction is just another distraction. Forgive yourself not to feel better, but to move better. Responsibility is not blame. Responsibility is ownership of the next step. There will always be someone faster, stronger, more talented. Comparison is a battle you can never win. The only meaningful competition is between who you were yesterday and who you are today. Measure progress by effort, by honesty, by resilience. When you focus inward, your energy returns to you. When you focus outward, your energy leaks away. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is preparation. In stillness, you observe your impulses instead of obeying them. You realize that you are not every thought that passes through your mind. This distance creates choice. Choice creates power. Power creates freedom. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is being able to do what you must. Your life is a training ground. Every challenge is a lesson disguised as resistance. Ask not why this is happening to you. but what it is demanding from you. Growth often feels like loss because it requires letting go of old identities. The comfort zone does not need courage, but it also does not offer meaning. Meaning is found where effort meets purpose, when discipline becomes part of who you are. Motivation becomes unnecessary. You act because it is aligned, not because you feel inspired. Inspiration fades. Alignment remains. Build rituals that support you when emotions fluctuate. Trust the process even when results are invisible. Roots grow in darkness before anything appears above the ground. You are capable of far more than you allow yourself to attempt. The limits you feel are often inherited beliefs, not personal truths. Question them, test them, replace them with action. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is movement in its presence. Each step forward rewrites your internal narrative. Stand firm in your direction, but remain flexible in your methods. Rigidity breaks. Adaptability survives. Patience is not passive waiting, it is active endurance. You stay committed while time does its work. You do not rush the harvest by pulling on the plant. You water it, you protect it, you return every day. This path is not meant to be easy. It is meant to be meaningful. If it were easy, it would not transform you. Accept the difficulty as proof that you are moving beyond who you were. Walk steadily, breathe deeply, train daily. Become someone you can rely on when everything else falls away, and in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when excuses are tempting and effort feels heavy, choose again to stand, to act, to move forward without needing permission, praise, or certainty, guided only by the commitment you made to yourself and the discipline that continues to shape you into someone who does not wait to be saved, but learns to become strong through deliberate action and unwavering presence in each moment as it unfolds. Discipline is often misunderstood as restriction, yet in reality it is the highest form of freedom. When you rely on motivation, you place your progress in the hands of emotion, and emotion is unstable by nature. Some days it is strong, other days it disappears without warning. Discipline does not ask how you feel, it asks who you have decided to be. When action is guided by decision rather than feeling, consistency becomes possible, and consistency is what reshapes a life. Most people believe they must feel ready before they act. This belief keeps them trapped. Readiness is not a condition you wait for, it is a state you create through action. The first step is often taken with doubt, hesitation, and resistance. Discipline means you move anyway. You show up not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Over time, this repeated choice builds trust within yourself. You begin to rely on your own word, and self-respect grows naturally from that reliability. Motivation is reactive. It responds to external stimulation, praise, excitement, or urgency. Discipline is proactive. It exists before results appear and remains after excitement fades. When you train discipline, you are no longer dependent on circumstances. Whether the day is good or difficult, whether you feel confident or uncertain, your actions remain steady. This steadiness creates momentum, and momentum makes progress feel inevitable rather than forced. Every morning presents a silent negotiation. The mind offers comfort, delay, and excuses disguised as logic. Discipline listens without obeying. It recognizes that comfort is temporary but regret lasts longer. Choosing discipline is not about denying rest or joy. It is about placing them at the right time. When effort comes first, rest becomes meaningful. When rest comes first, effort feels heavy. Discipline also teaches humility. It reminds you that greatness is not built in dramatic moments, but in ordinary ones. The simple act of showing up daily, even when the task feels small, trains patience and presence. These qualities extend beyond work into character. You become someone who does not seek shortcuts, someone who understands that depth requires time and repetition. When discipline becomes part of your identity, motivation loses its power over you. You stop asking whether you feel like doing something and start asking whether it aligns with your values. This shift changes everything. Decisions become clearer. Energy is no longer wasted on internal debate. Action becomes simpler because it is guided by principle rather than impulse. There will be moments when discipline feels heavy. These moments are tests, not punishments. They reveal whether your commitment is rooted in convenience or conviction. Anyone can act when conditions are perfect. Few can act when conditions are difficult. Those few build strength that cannot be taken away because it was earned internally, not given externally. Discipline is also an act of self-respect. Each time you follow through, you send a message to yourself that your goals matter. Each time you break a promise to yourself, doubt grows quietly. Over time, these messages accumulate. You either become someone who trusts themselves or someone who constantly negotiates with their own intentions. Discipline decides which direction you move. Do not wait for motivation to arrive. A signal. Create structure that supports you when emotions fluctuate. Set routines that reduce decision fatigue. Remove distractions that weaken resolve. These are not signs of weakness, they are signs of intelligence. You are designing an environment where discipline can thrive, where effort becomes automatic rather than exhausting. True discipline is calm, not aggressive. It does not rely on self-criticism or force. It is steady, patient, and forgiving. When you fail, discipline does not abandon you. It brings you back to the path without drama. It understands that consistency is not perfection, but persistence. As discipline strengthens, motivation begins to change. It no longer leads, it follows. You feel motivated because you are acting, not the other way around. Action generates clarity. Clarity generates confidence. Confidence reinforces discipline. This cycle builds a foundation that does not collapse under pressure. When you live this way, progress becomes less about results and more about alignment. You know you are moving forward because your actions match your intentions. Even on days when outcomes are invisible, your effort has meaning. You are becoming someone who does not depend on external validation to continue. Someone who moves forward quietly, steadily, and with purpose, guided by discipline that no longer feels like effort but like a natural expression of who you have chosen to be. Inner mastery begins the moment you stop running from discomfort. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid what feels unpleasant, yet avoidance quietly shapes their limits. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is a messenger. It shows you where you are untrained, where our awareness is weak, where growth is waiting. When you learn to stay present with discomfort instead of escaping it, you reclaim control over yourself. The mind reacts faster than awareness. A sensation appears, a thought follows, and an impulse demands action. This sequence happens so quickly that most people believe they have no choice. Awareness slows the process. In that pause, you discover that you are not your thoughts, not your urges, not your emotions. You are the one who observes them. This realization changes your relationship with difficulty. Instead of being overwhelmed, you become curious. Stillness is the training ground for this awareness. When the body is quiet, the mind becomes louder. You begin to see patterns you usually ignore. Restlessness, impatience, fear, and doubt rise to the surface. Many people mistake this for failure and return to distraction. In reality, this is the beginning of clarity. What you see in stillness has always been there. You are simply no longer avoiding it. Mastery does not mean eliminating fear or resistance. It means understanding them. Fear often points towards something meaningful. Resistance often protects an old identity that no longer serves you. When you observe these reactions without judgment, they lose their power. You no longer have to obey every internal command. You choose which ones deserve action. The body plays a crucial role in this process. Your posture, breath, and movement influence your mental state more than words ever could. When the body collapses, the mind follows. When the breath is shallow, the thoughts become rushed. By learning to stand firmly, breathe deeply, and move with intention, you create stability from the outside in. This stability becomes a refuge when emotions surge. Discomfort is a teacher that speaks in sensation. The burning of effort, the tension of uncertainty, the fatigue of persistence all carry information. If you immediately seek relief, you miss the lesson. When you stay present, you learn where to soften, where to endure, and where to adjust. This is intelligence developed through experience, not theory. Inner mastery also requires honesty. You must be willing to see your patterns without excuses. Blame weakens awareness because it shifts attention outward. Responsibility strengthens awareness because it brings attention back to what you can influence. You cannot control every event, but you can always observe your response. In that observation lies power. Pain is inevitable in growth, but suffering multiplies when resistance meets pain. When you fight what is already happening, tension doubles. When you accept the moment without surrendering effort, energy becomes available. Acceptance is not giving up. It is aligning with reality, so you can act effectively within it. As awareness deepens, you begin to notice the space between impulse and action growing wider. In that space, you find choice. Choice allows you to act according to values rather than habits. Over time, this reshapes character. You become less reactive and more deliberate, less controlled by circumstance and more guided by intention. Many people seek confidence by avoiding situations that expose weakness. True confidence is built by facing weakness directly. Each time you remain present under pressure, you prove to yourself that you can endure. This proof is internal A. ND cannot be taken away by opinion or outcome. It becomes a quiet strength that influences every area of life. Inner mastery is not achieved through dramatic breakthroughs, but through repeated moments of awareness. Each time you notice an impulse and choose consciously, you strengthen this skill. Each time you breathe, instead of react, you reinforce stability. Progress is subtle, but cumulative. When awareness becomes habitual, discomfort loses its threat. It becomes familiar territory rather than a signal to retreat. You stop asking how to avoid difficulty and start asking how to meet it skillfully. Life continues to challenge you, but you are no longer unprepared. You carry your training within you, ready to respond with clarity rather than panic, presence rather than avoidance, and strength that comes not from control of the world but from understanding yourself deeply enough to remain steady when the world pushes back. Identity is not something you declare once, it is something you practice daily. Every action, no matter how small, casts a vote for the person you are becoming. Many people search for change through big decisions while ignoring small choices, yet it is the small, repeated actions that quietly shape character. What you do when no one is watching defines you more accurately than what you say when everyone is listening. Consistency creates credibility within yourself. Each time you follow through, you reinforce the belief that you can be trusted. Each time you avoid responsibility, you weaken that belief. Over time, these experiences accumulate into an identity. You do not suddenly become disciplined, resilient, or focused. You practice behaviors that SLO. Make those qualities natural. Comparison distracts from this process. When you measure yourself against others, you give away your attention and distort your progress. There will always be someone ahead in some area and behind in another. This information is rarely useful. The only comparison that builds you is between your current actions and your previous standards. Growth is personal and it unfolds at its own pace. Daily choices are powerful because they are repeatable. You may not feel the impact immediately, but they compound. A single effort seems insignificant, yet repeated effort creates momentum. Momentum shapes habits. Habits shape identity. Identity shapes destiny. The sequence is always at work, whether you are conscious of it or not. Silence plays an important role in this process. When external validation fades, you are left with your own judgment. If your actions align with your values, silence feels peaceful. If they do not, silence feels uncomfortable. This discomfort is feedback. It invites correction. Listening to it strengthens integrity. Finishing what you start is one of the most underestimated skills. Many people begin with enthusiasm but abandon their efforts when novelty fades. Each unfinished commitment leaves a trace of doubt. Each finished task, no matter how small, strengthens the image of someone who completes. Completion builds confidence more reliably than talent or intention. Responsibility is the foundation of a strong identity. It does not mean blaming yourself for everything that happens. It means recognizing what is within your control and acting on it. When you take responsibility, you reclaim agency. When you avoid it, you give power away. Identity grows stronger as agency grows. You are not defined by your past, but you are influenced by it. Patterns formed over time do not disappear instantly. Change requires patience and repetition. When old habits resurface, the goal is not self-criticism but awareness. Each moment of awareness is an opportunity to choose differently. Change happens when these opportunities are taken consistently. Progress often feels slow because identity changes internally before it becomes visible externally. Others may not notice your effort, but you will feel the shift. Your responses become calmer, your decisions become clearer, your actions become more aligned. These subtle changes signal that your identity is being rewritten from the inside out. Small disciplines practiced daily are more powerful than occasional bursts of effort. They remove drama from growth and replace it with reliability. Over time, what once required effort becomes automatic. This is not because it became easy, but because it became part of who you are. When setbacks occur, identity determines response. If you see yourself as someone who persists, a setback becomes information. If you see yourself as someone who quits, a setback becomes confirmation. Identity filters experience. By choosing actions that reinforce resilience, you change how challenges are interpreted. Integrity is built in moments of choice. When temptation appears, you either strengthen or weaken your identity. There is no neutral outcome. Even choosing to delay a decision is a decision with consequences. Awareness of this gives weight to each moment and encourages deliberate action. Over time, daily choices form a confidence. You no longer need to prove yourself. You know who you are because your actions have shown you repeatedly. This confidence is stable because it is rooted in evidence, not opinion. It allows you to move forward without comparison, without rush, and without constant reassurance, guided by the steady accumulation of choices that align with your values and reinforce the identity of someone who shows up, takes responsibility, and continues to grow through consistent action even when recognition is absent and the path feels long. All that remains is the choice you make after listening. Nothing in this message works unless it is lived. Discipline without action is just a